Hello, everyone. My name is David Merritt. Today, I want to tell you about my visit to Seminole Assembly of God. Seminole Assembly of God is a Pentecostal Christian church, and I visited there on Sunday, April 13th, which was the Passover service. The name of the pastor was Pastor Rodney Kennedy, and like I said, he taught on Passover service. Now, he started off and he taught out of the book of Exodus on the very first Passover from Egypt. It was known as a Passover because the Lord noticed that the Jews had slaughtered the sheep like he had commanded them to, and had put markings over their doors so that he would pass over their homes when he was commencing the plagues on the peoples of Egypt who had the Jews in slavery. The ritual was, symbolic, and it is still celebrated to this day, but in other forms. My question that I thought when I was at the service was, what does this have to do with Christianity today? Because Jews are from the Judaism faith, so is there a correlation there, or how did it evolve? Now, I kind of did some more research, about the Book of Exodus after I had left the service, and I noticed that that was in the Old Testament of the Bible, which are the first books, and from that, they got the teachings to the Jewish community of that time with rituals and the commandments and all that for the Jews to follow in order to find that transformation that they're seeking. In order to answer my question, which was answered further on in the sermon, Pastor Kennedy went on to the New Testament, to 1 Corinthians, and he told about the first communion that was celebrated at the Passover time by the Jews that were following Jesus Christ at that time. And as you can remember, Jesus Christ is like a main focus point from Christianity that we learned in our book work. In the Old Testament, the Jews slaughtered that sacrificial lamb and, followed precise guidelines in order to find that total transformation. However, here in the New Testament, Jesus Christ now represents that lamb. Instead of smearing the blood in order for Christ to pass over their house and save them instead of killing the Egyptians, now there's no Egyptians, but Jesus Christ's blood represents the blood of that lamb. And his body, which would later be crucified, represents the actual lamb itself that they partook in. Pastor Kennedy went on to say how that it's a new covenant of grace and mercy for his followers, and that through Jesus, his followers would have that transformation in order to get to heaven and seek what they're actually finding and what they're practicing in religion. In order for them to find this transformation to heaven, they have to accept Christ as their Savior, and during Passover, they take part in what I looked up, it was called communion, which is a ceremonial taking of the bread, which represents Christ's body, and wine, which represents his blood. And through that, it just reaffirms that they are accepting Jesus Christ as their Savior. They're going to follow him and his ways and his teachings. They're not going to have to go so much by the book as they did in Exodus, where they followed specific laws. They're now doing this covenant, like I said, or like Pastor Kennedy said, with grace and mercy. And through that, they'll find that final transformation, and exactly what they're seeking is to get to heaven and be saved in the end. And that is pretty much what I got from the Passover service. Most of my questions were answered, but I'd like to see with more because there's a lot of similarities between Judaism and Christianity. So, thank you for your time for watching this, and I hope that you got some enlightenment from what I learned, and if you have any questions, just ask me, and maybe we can discuss it together. All right, thank you.